Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video, Core Pick live stream for today, September 12th. It's a Tuesday. We got a 9-game main slate in total today. Couple of double headers today, limited it down just a little bit. Kind of unfortunate for yesterday. I do apologize for that too, since we didn't really get to some of that weather as games were getting delayed and everything like that. And the starting lineups did have a soccer game going on that I'm coaching at this point in time. Same thing tonight. So I'll try to get as much information as possible out there. But, if I miss some of it, I do apologize for that. But without further ado, if you're brand new to my channel, checking out for like the very first time, this is kind of the structure that I take for this video, for this live stream overall. Go over a recap of yesterday's picks, see how it turned out. Go over to RotoWire, talk a little bit about that weather report for the day, and then we'll go over to FanDuel, talk about my core 5 picks for today. So it's going to be one pitcher, 4 hitters, a combination based on past history in their respective matchup and current history as well, or recent history. And then last but not least, we'll go over to my cheat sheet, talk about my top GPP teams to stack for today's slate overall. Should be a pretty interesting one today. I got 3 main teams that I'll be talking about. But, you can obviously mix and match here and there. Definitely be sure to check out that cheat sheet as we go throughout the day and as you're building out your lineups. If you're interested in more in-depth notes, be sure to check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. You'll get in-depth notes for hitter versus pitcher matchups, pitchers, whether or not I would consider them in play, risky play, or a straight up avoid, and then some additional stacks on some of the larger slates as well. But without further ado, we'll talk about yesterday's picks. Unfortunately, it was not a good day for us. So had Gavin Williams at the pitcher position at $7,200, got to 19 points. He was a push. Didn't ultimately pitch bad. He still had a quality start. I think it was 6 innings, 300 runs. Just didn't get the strikeouts versus a team in San Francisco that is a pretty prone strikeout team. So it was a little bit unfortunate there. But like I said, if you want to pay up, there was a lot of good options out there as well. And then we had Rafael Devers at third base. Ultimately, that was a game that did not end up going off yesterday due to rain. So that was a little bit unfortunate. Didn't have a chance to change or update that since I was a little preoccupied yesterday. And then at shortstop, we have Bo Bichette at $3,000. He got 0 points. He was a mess. Ultimately ended up going over 4, although he did have really good history in the past for Dane Dunning. So that was a little bit unfortunate there. And then there are 2 Astros outfielders, Jordan Alvarez and Cal Tucker, both only ended up with 3 points yesterday. So they both ultimately ended up being misses. A really unfortunate day, but obviously that is one of the factors that I talk about, kind of mix and match. And as we're building out our lineups, especially if you're playing in GPP formats, the thing with baseball too, you're going to have bad days. So at the end of the day, we want to have more good days, more, top 1% lineup days than we have bad days just in general. But that's going to be the case for the most part of the time. So kind of ran off yesterday. We're going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get over to RotoWire. I'm just going to talk real briefly because there isn't too much to talk about weather-wise on tonight's slate overall. Everything is double digits or less in terms of percent of rain at this point in time. Looks like we're lagging just a little bit. So do apologize for that. We're just going to highlight the games that are closer to the double percent. So not worried about the Yankees and Red Sox game because that one is not on the main slate. Let's just keep moving down here. There is this White Sox and Kansas City game is not on the main slate either. So essentially the highest weather spot today is out in Colorado with 9% for the Rockies and the Cubs at this point in time. Obviously with Colorado, that weather could change, kind of on a dime. So we'll just pay attention to that. But if there's anything majorly that changes throughout the day, I'll try to make an update out of it. A little busy by the time we get to around 4 o'clock Central Time. And then for the next couple hours, so hopefully I can try to catch as much as possible at that point in time. And then I'll try to get as many of the starting lineups out that do get released as early as possible today as well. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of weather report. I'm going to stop sharing this page. We'll go over to FanDuel and talk about those core 5 picks for today. And like I said, yesterday wasn't the greatest day in terms of the core picks. So trying to bounce back in a pretty big way today. Let me get this brought up here. It looks like we're lagging just a little bit again. It's been really unfortunate as of late for that. So going to give this a second as it continues to load the page. And we're going to talk about these core 5 picks. So we're going to start off at the pitcher position with Justin Verlander, probably going to be a really popular play today at $10,300 against the Oakland A's. He's got a really good history versus them in the past. Has not pitched against them in 2023, but in 2022, he had 48, 58, and 34 points versus this Oakland A's team. It's a pretty similar lineup for the most part, if not worse at this point in time too as well. And Verlander's been pretty good since he's been back with the Astros. ERA is at 3.23 on the season, averaging just over 30 points per game, 11 wins in total. So looked like a pretty strong performance for him once again. 3 of his last 4 starts have been up over 40 points, and that's what we're looking to get out of him today. So it should be a pretty favorable matchup for him once again. Probably going to draw a decent amount of ownership today, though. And then we're going to get down to first base, kind of a guy that's probably going to get slept on this slate. Maybe a guy that's not going to have a lot of ownership, Ty France. You'll see that on the season, it's a 249 batting average, 10 home runs, 55 RBIs, averaging about 8.5 fantasy points per game at $2,800. Kind of been hit or miss as of late, but goes against Patrick Sandoval today. He's 5 for 17 with 1 home run versus him in his career. So kind of a guy that's a cheaper pay down option that we can look at today. Maybe pays off. And, more of a GPP play in general, kind of maybe even a one-off. But if you want to stack Seattle today, they could be a viable option. It's just a little bit hit or miss versus Patrick Sandoval. Then we're going to keep moving down with shortstop. I'm playing 2 of them today in my core picks. So I got Jeremy Pena here as the first one at $2,700. He is averaging just over 9 fantasy points per game on the season. So he got up to a 263 average, 10 home runs, 48 RBIs. A guy that can steal base here and there as well. The Astros team is going to look like a pretty good team to stack overall. Don't really have to talk too much about that. But Pena is 3 for 8 in his career versus JP Sears, who is the projected starting pitcher for the Oakland A's at this point in time. And in his recent history, we got Jeremy Pena having at least 1 hit in 7 out of his last 8 games, including 5 multi-hit games during that time span. So really like the upside that he could have today in a pretty favorable matchup. JP Sears, probably been one of the best starting pitchers for Oakland this season, but that's not really saying too much at this point in time. So do like the Astros once again tonight. Do like Jeremy Pena, who's kind of been on a little bit of a hot streak as of late. And then we're going back to his teammate right away with Kyle Tucker today, $3,700. So he is $200 more expensive than yesterday. 3 for 7 with 2 home runs in his career versus JP Sears. He's got at least 1 hit in 5 out of his last 7 games. So pretty safe floor there. At the very least, he's probably not going to give us an offer, which, we got 3 points out of him yesterday. He was obviously looking for more than that, but has that strong history versus JP Sears. 288 average, 26 home runs, 103 RBIs on the season, averaging about 13 fantasy points per game at $3,700. Definitely do like the upside that he could have once again today. And then last but not least, we're going to one of those Chicago Cubs with Dansby Swanson at $3,600. Averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game, a little bit higher price, but that's the Coors Field effect. You're going to get a lot of these guys that are $400 or $500 more expensive than they probably should be, just because the game's at Coors Field, which is something that FanDuel's really been doing as of late. But when we look at Dansby Swanson, 4 for 6 versus Chris Flexen, who is the expected starting pitcher for the Colorado Rockies today. So pretty good history there. He's on a modest 3-game hitting streak at this point in time, and all 3 of those games have been multi-hit games. So definitely do like the upside that he could present today overall. And, stacking him with some other Cubs could make a lot of sense, although they're a little bit priced up because of that Coors Field effect overall. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do have listed here, you'll have just under $12,000 remaining, just under $3,000 per player. So a lot of different ways that we can approach the slate, whether you want to make a little bit more balanced build, whether you want to take a couple shots on some cheaper guys and then pay up at other positions. Definitely going to be a very interesting slate on today's for today, just in general. But with that being said, we're going to stop sharing this screen. We'll get over to the YouTube community tab and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for today overall. So just waiting for this to load here. Looks like we're lagging just a little bit again, unfortunately. So give me a second here. And then really lagging now at this point in time. So the top GPP teams that I do have to stack for today, obviously one of them is going to be the Houston Astros. 2 of them did end up in my core picks once again. Like I said, JP Sears is probably one of the better pitchers for the Oakland A's at this point in time in terms of starting pitchers. But his ERA is still, at 4.5, so not too necessarily worried there. The Astros have hit him pretty well in the past, whether it's Kyle Tucker, whether it's Jeremy Pena, whether it's Jose Abreu, who's actually been doing pretty well as of late. Alex Bregman is another guy that very much considered. Those would probably be the 4 that I ultimately end up playing from this Astros team. If you want to look at Chas McCormick, he's also 3 for 5 with 1 home run versus JP Sears. And then we got the Cubs going against Chris Flexen. Not a long list of history there, but it's been pretty good for their hitters, whether it is Dansby Swanson, Heimer Candelario, who's dealing with a little bit of an injury at this point in time. Yan Gomes and Cody Bellinger, both 2 for 2 versus him in their respective careers as well. And then last but not least, we have the New York Mets going against Ryan Nelson, who struggled very much against them earlier this season. Not a long list of history there, but Pete Alonso, Francisco Alvarez, who's banged up at this point in time, Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil, kind of would be the ones that I'd be targeting the most today, but there is also some other cheaper options in that Mets lineup, more likely than not as well. But that's kind of where I'm at in terms of the MLB DFS core picks for today, the top stacks, the weather report, and that recap of our unfortunate day yesterday. Hopefully, you all enjoyed. Hopefully, you learned a little bit of insight for this slate. If you have any other additional questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to let me know your favorite play on tonight's slate, whether it is someone from my core 5 picks, whether it's someone from my top GPP stacks, or whether it is a completely different player you guys think I'm definitely interested in hearing who that is for you. If you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS right now. We got MLB DFS Monday through Friday. We got CFL DFS once a week. It looks like it will be on Thursday this week. And then we'll be talking a little bit of NFL DFS. Last week, unfortunately, was not able to do a video. Just have my cheat sheets up on the sports affiliation channel. So definitely be sure to look out there. If you're interested in, kind of my player pool in general for NFL DFS for the week, be sure to check out the Patreon as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether you're watching live or on replay. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.